Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time talking episode 18 of season 1 of Supergirl called World's Finest. And here it is, an episode people had talked about for a while, but I never actually thought would happen until a couple of months ago. The crossover with The Flash. And it's great. This is, without a doubt, one of the best hours of superhero TV ever. It's like everything that is great about both shows, and you put them together, and it is so much fun. So let's just kind of get right into things. Let's talk about some of the smaller stuff first. So the whole Kara Jimmy relationship thing. Again, I'm not really super into this whole thing, but it did move forward in this episode, and I think some of the things they did with it were kind of interesting. Like when Cat Grant gives Kara some advice on her love life, she kind of even refers to what her little strategy as the lighthouse strategy or something like that. And then she mentions like, oh yeah, I came up with this with some book I wrote years ago, and that wasn't my best work, but whatevs. And I think that was the show kind of subtly trying to say, yeah, we don't really sort of advocate this strategy in terms of relationships. Trying to get the person that you want to come to you by being unavailable. Um, it's sort of the more like the advice that she gets from Barry of, if you like this person, just make it clear to them. Well, yeah, that does seem to be the more reasonable advice. Um, so much of what we see in both real life and in fiction is people, wanting to be with someone and not just say like, "Hey, I like you. What do you think about that idea?" And then all the plot problems and complications that come from that. Honesty really is the best policy most of the time. Um, I do like what they did there, though, at the end where Kara kisses Jimmy, and so he's just sort of like all stone faced, and Kara's like, "Was it good? Was it really that bad?" And then there's the whole everybody in the city starts marching off to who knows where. So a nice bit on that. I mean, one of the sort of things of superheroes is that um, important moments are almost always going to be ruined by supervillain activity. Uh, So that was fine. Um, let's see what else do we have going on here. Um, yeah, nothing particular to say about Lucy this episode. Um, yeah, so I guess let's just kind of get right into things. Um, so the whole plot of the Flash appearing on Kara's Earth. Um, there's a little bit of a problem with the writing here, where it's cool to watch Barry save Kara. Um, and it was great to sort of see the Flash zooming around National City while his theme music plays. It's just sort of like such a great moment. But he saves Kara, and then he runs her off to the middle of nowhere, and he offhandedly dismisses it as like, "Oh yeah, I guess I didn't quite control my speed there. I'm still trying to get faster. I goofed it up." And that's sort of like, well, that still seems a little odd that you couldn't have just put her down on the sidewalk in front of the building. I mean, again, this is really very transparent. Don't think about this too much. This is we had to get the characters in this situation so that Barry could find out the car is Supergirl. Don't think about it too much. And so yeah, that's very much one of those. This is dumb, but it had to happen for the plot to work kind of moments. But it was somewhat redeemed by Kara's sweater being on fire, and Barry goes to sort of like start patting it out. And they realize like, oh, she probably wouldn't appreciate me touching her boobs. So yeah, and I do like that once kind of it really dawned on Barry. It's like, oh, I am totally not on my Earth. He's just like, yeah, hey, I'm Barry Allen. Nice to meet you. So that's totally something Barry would do too. That I loved. And then it was really great that like he immediately hits it off with Kara and Wim, just because they're all Kara especially is a rather optimistic person. Win is a big geek, just like Barry. And it's just sort of like watching these guys bounce off of each other. Like Win and Barry are just like the like best buddies. He's just like it's like, oh man, I found this world's version of Cisco, even though Cisco doesn't exist on this Earth. And like Barry like asking Win to take a picture of him in front of Kara's spaceship. That was hilarious. Um, yeah, that was just great, and it all kind of culminated in that great moment in Kat's office where she's looking at the four of them and goes like, "You guys sort of look like the non-threatening, racially diverse cast of some sort of CW show." I think Kat's giving the CW a little bit too much credit in terms of racial diversity. I mean, Flash is pretty good about it. Arrow's, yeah, could be better. From what I've noticed, like shows like Tomorrow People and The 100, it's sort of like a bunch of attractive white people and an Asian guy. So yeah, but in all fairness, though, The Flash is one of the shows that does racial diversity better than most. So we'll kind of let that one slide. Um, let's see what else. Definitely some nice little nods to the comics here. Flash is jokingly referred to as Speedy at one point. Of course, that being what Thea is going by these days. Of course, the promo art was based on one of the cover of the first comic book to have a Flash versus Superman race. I mean, that was really fun stuff. Just hearing them talk about the multiverse and like Win going, "Oh yeah, what about an Earth where we're all evil?" And Barry goes, "Oh yeah, I've been there. It sucked." And then of course Barry here is talking about Earth 2, where some of his friends on that world were evil. Of course, fans of the comics, we know about Earth 3, which is where you've got the evil versions of all the heroic characters, like Ultraman, evil Superman, uh, Superwoman, who's evil, Wonder Woman, who ironically, well, Superwoman's real name is actually Lois Lane. So that's kind of a kicker. Uh, you know, okay, but going on. The whole team up between Silver Banshee and Livewire, again, sort of two heroes have to team up together to stop two villains who've teamed up together. I mean, it's just such classic comic book stuff. There was a little bit of some cheese there when Livewire sort of takes a look at Siobhan and goes, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have to give you a makeover." And in all fairness, though, that's a really nice interpretation of Silver Banshee from the comics. I mean, it looks a little bit different than how I remember the character, but characters like this have been tweaked a little bit over the years, so it's easily forgivable. And she does look really cool. I mean, it would be so cool if the next time they bring her back, it's like the curse is worsened, and that's not makeup anymore. That's what her face actually looks like. That would be so awesome. I do seem a little weird that they introduced magic into this world, the Supergirl world officially, and it's sort of just brushed aside really that casually. But okay, whatever. Uh, just watching Flash and Supergirl team up to fight these two characters, first at the warehouse where things don't go so well. I mean, I like how Barry tries the same trick he used to take down Blackout, and it only makes things worse with Livewire. And Barry is the one who introduces the technology in order to contain superpowered people so they can actually be given fair trials into Kara's world. That's cool. And I like how they answer our immediate question of like, well, okay, does Oliver Queen exist on this world? Does Cisco exist on this world? Does Barry exist on this world? And they say, well, Central City exists in this world, but none of the people that we know. Which, okay, so that basically means it's pretty much like Superman, Supergirl, and Martian Manhunter are the only superheroes on this world, and it might stay that way. Which, seems is kind of unusual, but okay, I'm fine with that. But what's interesting is that it's on Legends of Tomorrow. They've really implied that yes, Superman and Batman and such exist on that world. There was Rip Hunter's line of "I've seen Men of Steel die and Dark Knights fall," and he refers to those using the plural. So that kind of also could be interpreted as implying he saw both Superman and maybe Supergirl and Superboy. Anybody else who ever wore the S symbol die, along with the people associated with Batman like Nightwing and Batgirl and Robin. So now I have no doubt that later on they're going to introduce both more heroes and villains from the DC universe into Supergirl. Somebody like Maxima. She's a female character. She's also an alien. She's somebody who would be perfect for Supergirl. The show's already implied that Lobo exists in Supergirl's universe. So, I mean, there's a long string of alien characters that they could introduce. And Barry even says like, okay, like refer to the powered people as metahumans. Well, again, there's a long laundry list of people they can introduce. But whether or not they're going to introduce non-alien heroes, I guess it's all just going to play out according to who has the rights to what. But again, ultimately, now that the multiverse is a thing, I don't really think it's that huge a deal. Um, kind of going ahead. It does seem odd to me that Siobhan is a little more focused on getting revenge on Kara than she is on Cat Grant. And she doesn't even really seem to, oh yeah, say, oh yeah, being able to kill Cat Grant would be pretty awesome too. That doesn't quite ring true with me. And then there's that whole bit at the end where it's the firemen who, well, people say like the firemen took down both Silver Banshee and Livewire. I really can't say that's accurate. The firemen, in all fairness, did take down Livewire. It's more like like when she got shocked, she accidentally zapped out a bolt of electricity that happened to hit Silver Banshee and knock her out too. So more or less with Silver Banshee, the firemen got incredibly lucky. It was really Livewire that defeated Silver Banshee, and the whole thing with them helping Kara up, and it was like, it's our turn to help you this time. It's like, you're laying it on a little too thick here. And ditto the whole scene where the crowd races forward to sort of protect Supergirl against the villains. I'm like, man, this sort of starting to feel like that crane scene from Spider-Man, or like that bit where in the other like the Tobey Maguire movie where that guy goes, you mess with Spider-Man, you mess with all of us. Now, in all fairness, though, I did like that scene in the second Spider-Man movie with the people on the subway who are like, "Oh my God, he's just a kid. He's my son's age." And like, yeah, don't worry, Spider-Man. We won't tell anybody. I mean, again, landed on thick, but that was a moment that seemed to ring more true emotionally than what's going on here. Although I did sort of like that scene where Kat basically kind of begs for her life and says like, "Look, please don't kill me. I don't want you. My sons need me." Which seems a little odd given that her son Adam spent most of his life without her and seems to have turned out pretty well. Now, granted, her other son, he's still like maybe 12, 13 years old. Yeah, taking away a kid that age, mom, that would be pretty tough for him. And I don't think Kat's ever really said very much about her father and his kid's father. So, yeah, the kid's not exactly going to be alone. And there's still Kat's mother, whom we've met, but she's a big jerk. So, yeah, but under those circumstances, I can kind of grant Cat a little bit of leeway. I mean, if you have kids and you're convinced that there's a real possibility somebody might murder you, then like saying like, look, please don't kill me. I don't want my children to be without me, is a perfectly natural human reaction. And I like that they actually sort of made Livewire hesitate a little bit once she heard that. She clearly had not fully thought out this that whole situation. Sort of like, do I really want to murder somebody's mom? But of course, she never really gets the chance to sort of deal with that any further than that because action. And of course, the episode ends with the Supergirl Flash race and Barry getting sent back to his own Earth. And the producers have said, we'd really love to bring, if this is a big hit in terms of ratings, we'd be glad to find some way to do something like this again, probably trying to bring Supergirl onto the Flash, which again, that would be really awesome. And if having somebody like Supergirl pop up in Central City, having her actually be the first person in that universe to fly around with the S shield, that would be quite the little feather in Supergirl's cap. Even if somehow later on in the CW verse, which we would probably almost certainly never get to see, they end up with their own version of Supergirl. So yeah, guys, this was a really amazing hour of television for those of us who like superheroes. It's again one of those examples of how, as nerdy people, we are living in a true golden age. It is it never ceases to amaze me that we're seeing things like this now. Years ago, when I was a teenager and stuff, when I was really when I was younger, the idea of something like this ever happening, I mean, craziness. Is like that's never going to happen, and yet here we are. So with that said, guys, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Please also join me on Tumblr at Jedi Reviewer. Till next time, take care and have a good one.